Okay, so let me tell you a little story. Back when I was a wee little seahorse, I remember working in retail for a while. Already, some people are thinking to themselves, what the hell? What kind of transition is this? We just talked about personality like 5 minutes ago. Well, you're right. But in this channel, everything connects, and you're gonna go down the rabbit hole with me, okay? It's gonna be okay. So, anyways, if I had to describe working in retail, it would be like jumping into a ball pit and then coming out smelling a little bit like urine. Let me explain myself. This was sometime after high school, and I was like, damn, I need money, but I also want a Ferrari. And I also want to live in my own apartment with 2 or 3 of my best friends that I play video games with. And I also want to go out every once in a while. And I also want to travel. And what better way for me to realize those dreams than to apply to a job that paid $11 an hour at a department store that I so frequently visit? So, so I apply online. I take an hour answering like 10 questions because I didn't know what position I wanted to work for. Anything that places me in the back room so I don't have to deal with customers and I would be set, right? Now, a few days go by and I'm like half hoping that I wouldn't get a call because I had this sudden realization that I didn't know anything about the job. But at the same time, I had to take the job so I would gain experience to know something about the job that I didn't have experience to know anything about in the first place. Does that make sense? And shit, so I got the call and they were like, hey, so this is Alex, the HR, and we just looked through your application and it looks pretty good. How about we set you up for an interview? What days are you free this week? And I was like, tomorrow would be fine. Great. Now we have an opening for 7 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. And I know those hours are kind of iffy, but we had a high number of applicants, so we're so sorry about that. So, which one would work best for you? Oh, maybe 7 a.m., because the early bird catches the worm. I love that spirit, mister. Okay, so we'll pin you down for 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Okay, I can't wait to see you here. Catch you tomorrow, okay? Okay, bye. What the hell just happened? So I go there the next morning, like 15 minutes before, because I wanted to make a good impression. Oh my god. So I go in with this stupid ass, oversized black polo and a red and black striped tie that had the Trinity knot because I thought it would impress the interviewer. And it actually did. I can't believe it worked. And I had super tight khakis. So essentially, my outfit looked like I was a melting licorice ice cream cone. Not only that, but I was sitting there thinking about all the possible questions and how I would answer them, and my anxiety started to creep up, and oh my god, I don't know how long time passed because there was no clock in the break room. And then finally, the guy who was supposed to give me the interview came in after like what felt like 3 forevers, and he was pretty cool, but I got the feeling in the back of my mind that he was probably the devil. So we go into this little claustrophobic office, we sit down, I try to sit up straight, my shoulders are stiff, I feel pretty good, and I'm ready to go. I felt like I was going to take on whatever he threw at me. And you know what? The very first question that he brought up was, so, why do you want to work here? And then all of a sudden, I heard my ego shatter like a glass of water. That already threw me off, because if you think about it, you're not going to ease me into that question. It's just, why are you here? Answer in 30 seconds or else I will kick you out. Honestly, I just made some BS about wanting to be part of a company that does well, and I wanted to be part of that, and by the way, it seemed like a nice place to be, and it seemed to have good morals. And then other questions were like, oh, name a time in your life when you were faced with a problem and then you had to solve it. Or name a problem that you had to solve with other people. And I sort of wanted to stop here and say that, honestly, if you're applying for retail, just tell them like, oh, there was a lot of packages coming in and then we were understaffed, and then fill out the rest and then make it have a conclusion and then make it sound convincing. Okay? So anyways, yeah, I got the job, and then when I got into the workplace, the back room was dim, everybody looked pissed off and sweaty, and they were young like me. And the first couple of weeks were miserable. I didn't know what to do half the time. I was walking through the back room like I was lost. The backroom aisles were super freaking tight, like you could barely fit one cart through it. I didn't know how sorting worked. My PDA was breaking down every half hour, And then they were like, dude, you're so damn slow. We're gonna have to put you in the unload and stock team. And that was terrible because I didn't know how to stack boxes at the time. When I started my first day down at that dungeon, the boxes were going down the conveyor belt so fast. Like, you could see a box of diapers, and then you could clearly see Huggies and Pampers, and then all of a sudden you see a giant box of Tide, and then all of a sudden you see a long ass box of Threshold or Room Essentials, and you know that's going to be a heavy desk, and you somehow had to stack it on a pallet that wasn't even big enough to hold them. All the while the conveyor belt is getting so full that the boxes are squished together, and you couldn't get anything out of that belt without 15 other boxes getting knocked down to the floor in the process. And you had to pray to the Lord that you didn't just hear a jar of pickles crash down to the concrete floor. And then we had to put those same items out of the back room and then stock them into the store shelves. And that's already a bad look for customers or guests in the company's vocabulary, because you're all sweaty and they can clearly see wet spots on your armpits and your waist and your chest and your back. God forbid that you had to stock furniture, because then you had to deal with 15 pounds of plastic, 100 pounds of styrofoam, and the packaging is too complex and intricate. And it sucks even more because the company policy only allows you 30 seconds to open the package, stock the item, and then break the boxes down flat. All the while I was still trying to process what happened in the back room, and then I had to process this gigantic clusterfuck of a furnace that I was thrown into. I was so slow that I got to talk with one of my bosses, team leads in my company's vocabulary, and she was like, hey, we saw your performance, and basically if you still can't pull your weight, I don't think this job is for you. You have a week to improve. When those words landed on me, I felt devastated. After the shift, I admit, I went into the car and I drove home, and on the way home, I was almost on the verge of tears. Now, this is the part where I bring in the INFJ thing. For newcomers who stumbled across this video, it's pretty much a cognitive/personality type. Because the thing about this INFJ is that I will go for weeks just barely understanding the process of something because it's fermenting in my mind. I'm trying to connect it with everything else I learned in life. Like I'm trying to piece together a 1,000-piece puzzle in the span of 3.5 seconds. And then all of a sudden I get it and I understand it very deeply. I don't know why my learning process is like that, where I just learn nothing and then all of a sudden I understand everything. But that's pretty much how it works. And in this case, not only did the job finally click for me, but I somehow understood the process better than my bosses and the people who have been in that job for longer than I have. I started to keep up with the pace of the job. I started to find new ways of dealing with crowded situations. I even started getting recognition from the same boss that almost fired me. And then finally the job gets pretty cool and you start to get really cool with your coworkers or team members in the company vocabulary. And then the job actually starts to get fun. And yeah, I mean, dealing with logistics is like one of those jobs where it's only fun if you know what you're doing. But once you know what you're doing and you feel competent, you actually get a temporary rush. But for people who have been to retail, you know how that goes. But dealing with new coworkers and work politics and the holiday season is a whole other story. Don't even get me started on completely new and stupid managers.